I believe that you also brought a book. Did you want to talk a little bit more about that particular book?
Earlier on, I was asked to suggest one book for summer reading, and I just happened to have it with me. This is called The Lost Memoirs of Jane Austen, and this may seem like an odd choice for me, but I have a special reason for recommending this. A, it is extremely well written. The author, Siri James, is a Jane Austen scholar. This is a novel, but it comes off in the same way, I guess, that I, Claudius does for Robert Graves. It is purportedly the lost diaries of one Claudius, who becomes an emperor. Mostly Suetonius, but in that writer's hand, it is believable. Here, this writer has decided that it could be that a trunk is discovered at Chawton, one of the houses that Jane Austen's brothers lived in, and she frequented. And in here, we could be finding the diaries, the letters that have long been hoped for, that would explain Jane Austen's personal life. Mm-hmm. And better than Becoming Jane and this over-sentimentalized issues of could she have had a love affair that went wrong, she actually did have two known suitors. One who courted her in her early 20s, an Irishman. It turned out, though, that her being a minister's daughter, it didn't look profitable enough. So the marriage that could have been was never brought to discussion, even because his family sort of moved him away. And we don't always know how she felt about that. There was another young man who actually proposed to her. She's now 27 or so. She accepted his offer one night. The next morning, she refused it. And because her sister burned much of their correspondence after Jane's death, we don't know quite why. Mm-hmm. We don't understand that. But it's probably based on the fact that Jane Austen has her character say, you should marry for love, not for convenience. And because of primogeniture, that was a big issue in those days. This book takes you through, if you've ever read a Jane Austen novel or seen a movie, a very realistic, because this woman's done her homework, feel of reading Jane Austen. It's written in the style of, and many scholars of Jane Austen agree that this book comes off in that manner. So it's a totally enjoyable read. I got interested in Jane Austen all over again because, again, my nonprofit work. I was asked to do the scenery for Theatre Memphis' recent production of Pride and Prejudice. An incredible production staged by John Rhodes, who succeeded in casting these incredibly archetypal roles to everyone's satisfaction. We have a Lizzie, we have a Darcy. It ran, it was extended, it sold out again on another extension, so it's coming back in the summer of 2008 for 2 more weeks at Theatre Memphis, same cast. In doing the dramaturgy work, which means the history of the piece and learning about the period to help the actors and help John Rhodes, I became totally absorbed in what is so clear to everyone who's ever read Jane Austen. She is brilliant when it comes to characterization, to dialogue, and even the plot of this particular one it makes sense, it's satisfying. The humor is very sly and subtle in some cases, and with Mr. Collins it's very broad and obvious. So like Shakespeare, like other great writers, she's able to put an amazing amount of material into one source, into one book, and then to be very clever about not over-describing things. Mr. Darcy is not described except for being tall, so everybody decides what he looks like and takes ownership of the work. And this will happen in this book when we learn who this author tells us is Jane Austen's true love. And we know the kind of bittersweet story that's going to happen, because we know she dies as a single person, but nevertheless, it's a totally satisfying read. So I think, again, you may want to read, some of the Jane Austen novels again.
There you go. Yes,
if
sir.
you're inspired by this.